I really worked myself into a corner with this screwdriver. I don't know if I can... Today is one of those fun days for me because I get to play with scale accessories. In particular, a new project that's an old project that I just happened to throw a bunch of parts together on, and it worked out rather well. Today, what I'm going to talk about is this old classic Basterd Junior chassis from RCP crawlers that, as far as I'm aware, you can't get anymore, but wow, does it work with modern parts. So I've had this Basterd Junior chassis just laying around. It's been in the background. I've tried to rebuild it a few times over the past few years, and I haven't had really good luck with it because just getting parts to work together sometimes on a rig can be difficult. This one has classic geometry, let's call it, to be nice. And to tell you the truth, it's just always eluded me, just out of reach to get parts that were working like I wanted to. The original build of it wasn't bad. This is back in the day when, let's see, this came out right after the AX10, the B17 Betty actually. And this was a drop-in chassis replacement for that. It used the same links on it. It was, you just dropped it right in and then had no place to put your battery, of course. And it was used for competition. Specifically, this was the original competition spec for tubers. And the competition specs have changed over the years. They're a little bit smaller than they used to be. Nonetheless, I've had this guy sitting around since it came out because I got him on first run. And it's just a sexy looking beast. Just always wanted to build it up. And as you can see, I've got Capra axles under it now. And I don't have the wheels that I want to use that will bring in our track width a little bit. It feels like maybe it's a little bit longer. I don't know. I really like the way that it bolted together with these Capra axles. And it didn't use stock links or anything like that. These were links that I just had laying around. Actually, the same links that I had on the rear for the last build with, oh, what were they? SCX10 axles maybe? No, they were the original AX10 axles actually. Just different links on there. The front, I just had some axle, some links laying around. And what I have done is calculated the exact links that I need. And then I placed an order with Hardcore RC. They have essentially a custom link builder on their website and lots of links that are just in stock. So you order the links in the link length that you need, and then you just bolt it right in. And then of course they have their little drive tool you've seen in previous episodes of building your links fast. So that is what I'm going to do, just waiting on those to really button this up nice with some stainless lowers and titanium uppers. Just really looking forward to it. This has been extremely fun to this point, nice and easy, but it's going to get even better. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the new parts that I have that came from AJ at supershafty.com that is going to be the heart and soul of this. Now, I do actually have a second Basterd Junior chassis on the way. The old owner of RCP Crawlers had one, and we did some trades. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build two of these that are almost identical specs, and then I'm going to see essentially which one I like better. And they're both going to be fun to drive. So, I mean, who can complain about that? But let's see what we got, because I forgot. I order stuff for myself and I forget. Ooh, Super Shafty sent some stickers. Bomb-proof. Super Shafty is the home of the bomb-proof transmission, which I also got one of those for another project, I think, if I remember correctly. So let's just take a look. It's all packaged up nice and neat. Maybe we can just rip these apart. Maybe we'll just cut these apart. Ah, yes. It's all coming back to me now. So what we have here are the VP gear sets, 38. I'm not sure if these are the underdrive option. I could look on my shelf and see. I'll do that another time. But we have our gears for Capra axles. We have our lockers for Capra axles, or the SCX10 too, same thing. We have we have knuckles For the super shafty bomb-proof axles, you probably know where I'm going with this. We've got, yes, servo mounts, 3 of them to be exact. Why would we have 3 servo mounts? Let me know in the comments. We have, oh yeah, we got the good stuff in here. Bearings and the super shafty aluminum Capra axles. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and hey, they're a front axle. With the bearings, of course. We've got another front axle. Why would we have 2 front axles? Really like the packaging, by the way. Very good job. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get out, but very secure, and nothing got damaged in shipping. It's a sticky bag. And, oh, we got some brass knuckles. The portal steering thingy. You know, whatever it's called. Let me know in the comments. We have, yes, a 3-link mount from Team Garage Hack for the Capra axle. We've got the, I believe this is the mild overdrive gear set. And a standard. Yes. We have some body clips, it looks like. Yeah, some body clips. Maybe a couple body clips in here. You know, some body clips and pins. Yes, body clips. Thank you, thank you. Tyler's body clips. Interesting. I wonder if Tyler made them, or if these were destined for Tyler. Let me know. I don't know what's going on. All right, we got some pins, some drive pins. We definitely need those from Super Shafty. We have the hexes from Axial. I'll probably end up using Vanquish hexes because I'll be using Vanquish compatible wheels. Yes. Got ourselves a set of Capra links from Hardcore RC. Yes, we do. So I'll probably end up with some extra links because I ordered some from Hardcore as well. But these are the steering links. Steering links only. So maybe I don't have extras. We'll see. It never hurts to have extra links in the bank. And yes. And we have ourselves universal axles, axial style. Yes, these are the internals for the Capra. So the upper shafts or inner shafts or whatever we would call them. Then our stub shafts on the outside. Yes, yes, yes. So what we have here is essentially all the parts to build 2 aluminum steering style axles, or front axles if you want to call them that. Because I'm going to build a 4-wheel steer Basterd Jr. This guy right here. And I already have another plastic axle on the front. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do if I have one rig that has plastic axles and another rig that has aluminum axles, or if I'm going to put an aluminum axle on the front of both and do plastic axles on the rear. One rig would have your normal rear, and the other rig is going to have the 4-wheel steer axle. I kind of feel like that's going to be the way that I go so that we can get a nice forward weight bias, about a 60-40 weight distribution on this build. And before I call it good, I just want to inspect these axles and see how they look. It appears to be a pretty hard alloy. I would say it's probably 70-75 because it's not scratching. Yeah, I do believe these are 70-75. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's got the specs on the website, I'm sure. The tool pathing, it's decent. I mean, these axles aren't the most expensive out there. They're really nice for sure. As you can see on the face of these axles, very good machine work. Really tight machine work. On the rear, I'm not sure if you'll actually be able to see that. Let's try. There's a little bit of tool pathing. And to be honest, I'm picky. I'm really picky. I have previously been a machinist. I understand why there's this tool pathing on there, because essentially they wanted to run the part a little bit faster. You can't get around it on some of these hard edges, but on the back side, you know, I just got ran a little bit faster. They had a little bit too much of a step over or a little bit too small of a radius on their ball nose, because it does look like it was done by ball nose. But that's, you know, that's hidden finish. We're never going to be looking at that. And the strength of the axles and the fit and finish is much more important than the looks. These are going to get drug around on the rocks, so I'm certainly not worried about the finish on these, but they do look great. I would just say, you know, if they wanted to make it a little bit better on the backside, the machinist could slow down a little bit or have slower or less step over on there, or use a larger diameter ball nose. Yeah, that's just me being a picky machinist. These are absolutely fantastic looking axles, and they will do the job very nice. Oh yeah. I'm excited for this. This is going to be a really cool build. There is so much to do on this that I think we need to make it on a separate video. And what I'll end up doing is I'll wait until I get all of my links in place, and then I'll unbolt all this and I'll bolt it back together, build these axles, and we will see how it goes together. And it should be a really fun build. And I get to do two of them, and that's always fun when you can kind of replicate a build, have two of them, and then I'll be able to test and tune on our suspension geometry and see what works better. As you can see on this axle, we have the link risers from Super Shafty, and that moves our links up from being just as they are on this front axle, how they're low and in the pocket, and they are underneath the servo. On the rear, you raise them up like this and you get more anti-squat. On a lot of rigs, that's useful. I also have these link mounts on top available on this. And surprisingly enough, it lines up with modern suspension geometry to have that. And then if I use the, let's see, this is a SCX10 skid. If I use that forward mounting spot, that also gets us into modern link geometry. You can see where the old links would have been mounted. Horrible geometry. It's hard to describe how bad the roll center is with these upper link mounts in the old school position. You just have to experience it for yourself, and I'm not going to experience it anymore on this rig. I'm not even going to use them. They're just going to be there for looks. I might hack them off. I don't know. They could be useful for mounting something, some rock lights or something. I don't know, whatever. But on the rear, especially with that center pocket, the way that our axles kind of come in and pinch there, and then we have reverse triangulation. As you can kind of see, they're bent links, so it's somewhat hard to see, but our lower links come in at an angle like this, and then our upper links come at the opposite angle, and then all of that combined together. I didn't expect it. It's got a beautiful roll center. We have practically no rear axle drag. I'm not sure if it'll show up on camera, but when we flex, we're gonna either have our tire kind of like slide a little bit side to side like this, or our rear axle is gonna kind of drag with the suspension. But I mean, it's hardly any at all to complain about, especially for being what essentially is kind of old school geometry on this guy. And I'm not totally using all the old school geometry, but it'll be a little bit better when I use these upper link mounts in the future. And I mean, I just didn't expect it to bolt up so easy, honestly. It's like the biggest reason why I'm excited about this project is that it looks that it's gonna be fairly easy. Now, since I'm doing two rigs, I'm gonna make it hard on myself, and I would love to fit one of these two low trannies inside, but this is a little bit wider than the skid. Just a few millimeters, maybe 5 millimeters wider than our skid. This bolts right up though. This skid bolts right up, and we're gonna get even more modern geometry. We're gonna get longer lower links, a better pinch to the pocket, both front and rear. So this skid and this tranny is actually gonna let us use more modern geometry. And then I'm actually going to sister up a side plate. Where'd it go? I'm going to sister up a side plate from our Sherpa chassis. Boom, boom, boom. And it's going to give us this front link pocket right there. So the front uppers. And right now you can see where it's kind of bolted into this plastic skid. That's not a good position for it. It really needs to be a little bit further out this way. It's kind of like splitting hairs, but I don't want my front links to be only supported by plastic, and there's really no other way for me to get there other than sistering on a plate on the outside. We're just going to get rid of all these rear link pockets. I'm only going to be using essentially this much of it. I've got some steel ones coming on the way from TGH. I also have some aluminum ones on the shelf that we can use if need be, but what I'm going to have to do to fit this in there is cut out just a little bit of the chassis, this crossbar right there. And I'm not worried about the strength of these. It's solid steel. It's a very, very stout little chassis. So not really worried about that. I may end up sistering a bar down or something like that just for looks, really, more than anything else. And then, maybe 3D print a little side cover for it. We'll see. But at any rate, what I will end up doing is cutting out a section of the chassis, and then I can slide this over because it slides, and I'll be able to slide it over all the way. That'll give us all the clearance that we need for our motor to be forward mounted motor. And the only thing that I really don't know is what I'm going to use for a motor. It's going to be easier if I use a short motor. So that leads me to believe that either a Puller 400 or a Stubby Magnum will be the natural choice. Although I could use an Outrunner. And this is kind of why I'm having two rigs, so that I can compare and contrast the setups between them, not only the link geometry, having 4-wheel steering versus 2-wheel steering, but I'll also be able to compare and contrast motors next to each other and not have to yank it out of a rig. And I can just go outside with both rigs, use the same batteries, use all the same setup for the most part, and then be able to get the job done. So this is probably going to be the only hard part, and it's really not going to be hard. Just a cut and maybe a little tack weld or some brazing. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for this project. If you can't tell, it's been a while since I had a project that really kind of got me excited. Some of the new rigs that have been released lately, even the SCX-10 that came out quite a few years ago at this point, kind of got me really excited back into it. But this one just, it has a special place in my heart. These Basterd Junior chassis really have a special place in my heart because they were one of the first, if not the first, aftermarket chassis that you could buy for I say ready to run rig, but the AX10 kit was a kit. And then you would buy this chassis to get yourself into comp spec, and or at least for tuber comp spec, because it came as a kit in the body specs, and these were the bodies that came in it. So a lot of people ended up going to tubers. Just a little bit of history here. This was our body spec for competing. This was our bodiless spec for competing. And at the time, the only way you could get bodiless was to make your own tuber chassis. So when this came out as a bolt-in upgrade, it was very popular, of course, because not everybody's a chassis builder. Not everybody's a frame builder. I am not a frame builder. I could probably end up making a jig and getting my way through it. I have welders, I can braze, I can do it all, but it's a lot of freaking work. A lot of work. A lot of times you end up having 40 hours plus just in your chassis when you do something like this. So to be able to buy it and just bolt it in off the shelf, as you can see, there's a pretty big difference. This is about where most people would run it. They would cut the bumper sometimes, but that's about where people would run it. And as you can see, it's taller, it's wider, you get hung up on stuff, it's a lot longer, and it was just a competitive disadvantage to run bodied. So everybody went to bodiless for the most part. As soon as you could buy them, people were going bodiless. And then, of course, as I talked about in a previous video, I figured out a way around the rules to where I could create the dimensions of bodiless by using essentially a twin vertical plate style. And we got one around here somewhere. Let's see. This was the original, the first, the SPV2 chassis from Fastlane Machine that I helped them make. And this was what ended up replacing these style chassis because it's less expensive to make this and have some standoffs than it is to have a tube chassis. And then this got replaced by this style of chassis. And as you can see, it's actually about the same size as the tubers, but a little bit more modern. The geometry ended up changing, of course, over time, and the chassis dimensions ended up changing over time. They got really small, but as you can see, it's essentially the same concept, but this is more affordable and lighter to manufacture. You get a lot more geometry locations, so you can tune your anti-squat and your roll center on it. And the market just moves and moves and moves, and the little cottage builders making stuff like this and making stuff like this were essentially able to outcompete the large manufacturers. And so now we have no large manufacturers that make ready-to-run competition rigs anymore. But the competition scene isn't huge these days, so c'est la vie. It's more of a tight-knit community. And there's a little history for you. I am really excited, though, to take this old competition chassis and make just a scaler with it. Make a 1.9 scaler. These are actually tiny tires for this guy. It should be running 2.2s. Well, I don't even have 2.2s on that. I don't even know if I have many 2.2. Yeah, I don't have any 2.2 comp wheels anymore. Yeah, geez. They're hiding somewhere. They got to be hiding somewhere, but the tires are going to be 10 years old and probably dry rotted, so whatever. Whatever on that. We'll get to it when we get to it. So, if you got any questions about this, again, RCP is where these originally came from. Maybe you could ask around and find one, but unfortunately this is probably not going to be a chassis that you can find. If you want to do some more work though, there's the Hustler chassis build that I showed you before on another video, or maybe after this video, who knows when it's going to be released. And maybe RCP Crawler still has some Hustler chassis around. Here we go, here we go. Here we go. So here's the Hustler chassis build that I'm also going to be doing. This one I'm going to have to do a lot more modifications on. So it's going to be more involved build. I'll do it later down the road. We'll get to it. Nothing but fun around here. And things falling behind me. So before the entire shelf falls on me and destroys my project that I'm trying to get going here, I will bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a good one.